Imagine you are standing ankle-deep in blood that is not yet cold. The screams have stopped, not because the killing is over, but because there is no one left alive to scream. You look down. A Persian noble, gold rings crushed flat into his fingers, tries to crawl away without legs. A Spartan spear comes down once, twice, and the earth drinks again. Now ask yourself this impossible question. How did a people who were nearly exterminated at Thermopylae rise again, and inflict one of the most savage revenges in ancient history, so brutal that later Greek writers deliberately softened it to protect their own souls? You think you know the Persian Wars. You don't. Not like this. Because what happened after Thermopylae wasn't heroic. It wasn't noble. It was vengeance. And by the end of this story, you'll understand why even Sparta, a society built on violence, hesitated to speak of it. But first, you need to understand just how broken Greece really was. Because Thermopylae didn't just kill 300 Spartans. It shattered the world they believed in. And the men who survived. They didn't want glory anymore. They wanted blood. Before we go any further, let me pull you forward, just for a moment. Because in this story, 5 moments are coming that will change how you see ancient warfare forever. You'll see a Spartan commander who sleeps with his sword because he believes Persian assassins are already inside Greece. A Greek traitor whose name becomes a curse, hunted like an animal, flayed alive, and erased from memory. A Persian general who laughs as he orders Greek children executed, until he is dragged from his chariot and torn apart by hand. A battlefield so soaked with corpses that soldiers slip on intestines while charging. And finally, a moment so violent that even the victors stop fighting and just stare at what they've done. And the question hanging over all of it: was this justice? Or did Sparta become something worse than Persia ever was? Now, let's rewind. Back to the moment Greece lost everything. The year is 480 BC. Thermopylae is over. The hot gates, those narrow mountain passes, are silent now. 300 Spartans. 700 Thespians. Hundreds of others. Dead. Not routed. Not broken. Annihilated. The bodies are piled so thick that Persian soldiers have to climb over them like steps. The air reeks of copper and rot. Flies are already forming black clouds. And somewhere among the corpses, Leonidas, king of Sparta, lies headless. Xerxes has ordered his body mutilated, decapitated, crucified. A warning. A message carved into flesh. This is what happens when you resist the King of Kings. Word spreads fast. Too fast. By the time messengers reach the Peloponnese, panic has already begun. Athens is abandoned. Temples are looted by their own priests. Children are shoved onto ships screaming for parents who won't survive the winter. And Sparta does not mourn publicly. But behind closed doors, something terrifying happens. The illusion breaks. Because Thermopylae wasn't supposed to end like this. The Spartans were raised on a single belief: that discipline and courage could overcome any enemy. And yet, Persia didn't just defeat them. Persia erased them. For the first time in centuries, Spartan elders ask a question they've never allowed themselves to think. What if we can lose? And worse, what if the gods have abandoned us? Now let me introduce you to a man history rarely talks about. His name is Pausanias, nephew of Leonidas. Not king. Not chosen by destiny. Not even particularly liked. And yet, this broken, haunted man will become the architect of Persia's worst nightmare. When Leonidas died, Pausanias was left behind. Not because he was weak, but because Sparta didn't trust him. He was young, ambitious, too clever. And now, the burden of Thermopylae sits on his chest like a corpse. Ancient sources say he didn't sleep for weeks. That he walked the streets at night muttering Leonidas' name. That he visited the temple of Athena again and again, demanding signs. But the gods stayed silent. And silence is the worst answer of all. Across the Aegean, Xerxes celebrates. From his golden pavilion, he watches Greece burn. Athens falls. The Acropolis is looted. Statues are smashed. Altars ripped apart. Persian soldiers laugh as sacred olive trees are chopped down for firewood. To Xerxes, this is not conquest. This is punishment. These cities dared to resist him. They dared to kill Persian messengers. They dared to humiliate his father at Marathon. Now Greece will learn fear. And Xerxes believes the lesson is working. Because everywhere his scouts go, they find flight. Greek cities argue. Alliances fracture. Peloponnesian states build walls, not armies. And Sparta stays quiet. Too quiet. Here's what most people don't realize. Thermopylae didn't make Sparta weaker. It radicalized them. Inside the city, the agoge, the brutal Spartan training system, intensifies. Boys are beaten harder. Food is cut further. Weakness is punished without mercy. Because now, every child is being prepared for a war that will decide whether Sparta survives, or becomes a Persian subject. And in the shadows, Pausanias begins to plan. Not defense. Not delay. Revenge. But here's the problem. Sparta is alone. Athens has no army left, only ships. The Greek alliance is fragile, suspicious, and terrified. And Persia is infinite. Hundreds of thousands of troops. Cavalry that blackens the horizon. Archers so dense they turn daylight into dusk. How do you fight that? How do you avenge Thermopylae, when Thermopylae proved that courage alone isn't enough? This is where Pausanias does something no one expects. He stops thinking like a Spartan, and starts thinking like a predator. Before we continue, let me reset your attention with something horrifying. Because while Greek leaders argue, Persian soldiers are doing something that turns even war-hardened veterans pale. They are collecting Greek heads. Not as trophies. As accounting. Each satrap is ordered to deliver proof of execution. Men. Women. Children. Piled. Counted. Recorded. A Persian officer named Artaintes writes in his letters that the smell of Greek blood sticks to the nostrils even in sleep. And this matters. Because this is not just war. This is terror as policy. And when terror is used long enough, it creates monsters. Now let me tell you about Artemisia of Caria. A Persian ally. A woman. A naval commander feared even by Persian men. At Salamis, she rams allied ships to escape Greek pursuit, killing her own side without hesitation. Xerxes watches and laughs. This woman fights like a man, he says. And that sentence tells you everything about the world Greece is fighting. A world where strength is admired, but mercy is weakness. And Sparta understands this language perfectly. Which is why when Pausanias finally speaks in the war council, the room goes silent. Because what he proposes isn't heroic. It's insane. And if it fails, Greece doesn't just lose. It disappears. But that plan, that moment, is still coming. And when it arrives, half of Greece will refuse to follow him. The other half will follow, knowing they may never come home. Because once you choose vengeance, there is no return. For now, hold this image in your mind. A Spartan army standing at dawn. 10,000 men. Not shouting. Not praying. Just tightening grips on shields already scarred by Persian steel. Their commander steps forward. He does not promise victory. He promises retribution. And somewhere across the sea, Persian generals are about to learn the difference between conquest and being hunted. And you think this story is about to turn hopeful? Wait. Because next, we're going to descend into Pausanias' mind. Into the guilt. The paranoia. The trauma Thermopylae carved into his soul. And when you see what drives him, you may start to wonder whether Sparta was ever fighting for Greece at all, or only for revenge. You think Pausanias is preparing for war. He isn't. He's trying to survive his own mind. Because Thermopylae didn't just kill Leonidas. It poisoned everyone who lived after it. and Pausanias feels that poison every time he closes his eyes. He dreams of the past. Not as it was, but as it became. He hears shields splintering, men screaming Leonidas' name, the wet sound of Persian blades forcing their way through bronze and bone. And in every dream, he arrives too late. Leonidas turns toward him. Not angry, not accusing, just disappointed. And that is worse than death. Here's what ancient sources only hint at. Pausanias develops something we'd now recognize as trauma-induced paranoia. He sleeps armed. He interrogates servants himself. He refuses wine unless he sees it poured. Because in his mind, Persia isn't across the sea anymore. It's inside Greece. Inside every city. Inside every alliance. Inside every smile. And he's not wrong. Let me tell you about Ephialtes. You know the name. The traitor of Thermopylae. The man who showed Xerxes the goat path. But what happens after is far darker than most retellings admit. Ephialtes doesn't become rich. He doesn't become powerful. He becomes hunted. Greek city-states post bounties on his head. Not symbolic ones. Real silver. Real promises. And he runs. From Thessaly to Marlies. From village to village. Unable to sleep more than a few nights anywhere. Because Greek mothers spit at the sound of his name. Because fathers teach their sons to curse him before they can read. And one night, a man finds him. Not a Spartan. Not even a soldier. Just a Greek who lost 2 brothers at Thermopylae. He doesn't stab Ephialtes immediately. He asks him one question. Was it worth it? Ephialtes tries to speak. He never finishes the sentence. His body is later found mutilated beyond recognition. Not for justice, but for example. And this matters. Because Greece is learning something dangerous. That revenge feels good. Pausanias sees this. And instead of stopping it, he studies it. Because Sparta doesn't have the numbers to match Persia. So Pausanias begins crafting a different weapon. Fear. Uncertainty. Psychological warfare. He orders spies. Not noble envoys. But slaves, merchants, defectors. People who move unnoticed. And what they bring back is worse than expected. Persian morale is not invincible. It's cracking. Persian soldiers are exhausted. They've marched thousands of miles. They're fighting in unfamiliar terrain. And most importantly, they're starting to believe something unsettling. That Greece is cursed. That its defenders fight like men already dead. One Persian infantryman named Tigranes, a cousin of Xerxes, writes that the Greeks do not retreat like men who wish to live. This frightens him. It should. Because it means Greece has reached the most dangerous state a society can reach. The point where survival matters less than revenge. But here's the twist. Sparta doesn't rush. They wait. And waiting, when your cities are burning, feels like betrayal. Athens is furious. Corinth threatens to withdraw. Even Spartan allies whisper that Pausanias is stalling. Cowardice, they say. Hesitation. But Pausanias isn't hesitating. He's choosing where Persia will die. Now we arrive at the moment where the story almost ends before it begins. The Greek War Council. Men shouting. Accusations flying. Athenians accuse Sparta of hiding behind Peloponnesian walls. Spartans accuse Athens of recklessness. And then Pausanias stands. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't threaten. He says one sentence. If we fight Persia where it chooses, we lose. If we fight where I choose, Persia will bleed. The room goes silent. Because everyone understands what he's implying. Not defense. Not retreat. An ambush campaign. Hit-and-run warfare. Targeting supply lines. Destroying morale. Forcing the Persians to fight hungry, tired, and afraid. This is not how Greeks fight. This is how predators hunt. And half the council is horrified. The other half, terrified it might work. Let me reset your attention here. Because what happens next made hardened warriors physically sick. Pausanias orders something unprecedented. The execution of Greek collaborators. Not trials. Not debates. Public deaths. Men accused of aiding Persia are dragged into squares. Some protest innocence. Some don't. And Pausanias watches every execution personally. Because this isn't about justice. It's about sending a message. Choose Greece, or die screaming. And it works. Greek resistance stiffens overnight. But so does hatred. And once again, Pausanias takes another step away from the man Leonidas would have been. Now let's talk about Mardonius, Persia's real general. Xerxes' brother-in-law. A man who understands warfare. Unlike Xerxes, who loves spectacle, Mardonius loves results. He knows Greece hasn't been beaten. Not really. And when Xerxes returns to Asia, leaving Mardonius in charge, the war becomes far more dangerous. Because Mardonius is patient. And cruel. He offers cities deals. Submit. Pay tribute. Live. Refuse. And your children will decorate Persian roads. One Boeotian city accepts. Another refuses. Mardonius keeps his word. The city burns. Survivors are impaled. And he lets Greek refugees watch. Because terror travels faster than armies. And yet, something isn't working. Despite everything, Spartan scouts keep appearing where they shouldn't. Persian foraging parties disappear. Supply wagons arrive empty. Horses are found slaughtered in their harnesses. And Persian soldiers start whispering a word. Not defeat. Not ambush. Hunting. They believe something is stalking them. They're right. Now comes the plan no one believed would succeed. Pausanias proposes to draw the Persians north. Into terrain where their numbers mean nothing. Plains broken by rivers. Hills that choke cavalry. Fields where hoplites can anchor and grind. The place? Plataea. A name that will become soaked in blood. Athenians hesitate. Spartans hesitate. Because this is not Thermopylae. There will be no narrow pass to hold. No heroic last stand. This will be a massacre. One way or the other. But Pausanias knows something they don't. Mardonius is impatient. He wants a decisive battle. And Pausanias is about to give him exactly what he wants. Just not the way he expects. Before we go further, let me introduce you to a Persian soldier named Mycale. He's not famous. He's not a general. Just cavalry. And in a skirmish near the Asopus River, Mycale is unhorsed. Greek hoplites surround him. He fights like a cornered animal. Breaks a spear. Cracks a shield. And then, he's beaten down. Stripped. Killed. His armor is passed around like trophies. This is the first Persian cavalryman slain in open ground by Spartan-led forces. The Greeks cheer. The Persians don't just lose a soldier. They lose an illusion. That their elite cavalry is untouchable. And from that moment, fear begins flowing uphill. You think this is where hope rises? Not yet. Because now, everything goes wrong. Supply issues. Miscommunication. Night marches that collapse into chaos. Greek units lose contact with each other. Persian scouts flood the area. Mardonius senses weakness. And he smiles. Because the Greeks are about to experience their lowest point. A moment so catastrophic that several Greek contingents consider desertion. A moment where Pausanias himself nearly loses control. A moment where it seems Thermopylae is about to repeat itself. Only this time. There will be no legend. Only annihilation. Hold that thought. Because next, we reach the night before Plataea. A night filled with bad omens. Broken formations. Men whispering prayers through clenched teeth. And a decision. One single decision. That will determine whether Greece survives or vanishes forever. And when dawn breaks, you'll hear the sound that haunts survivors for the rest of their lives. The sound of thousands of shields advancing, and the world breaking beneath them. The night before Plataea smells wrong. Not like campfires. Not like sweat and oil. It smells like fear. 10,000 Spartans stand in darkness that feels heavier than armor. Around them, Athenians, Tegeans, Corinthians, men shifting weight, whispering to gods they barely believe are listening anymore. Somewhere in the black distance, Persian campfires glow like a second horizon. Too many. Too calm. And here's what almost no one tells you. The Greek army is breaking apart. Orders are misunderstood. Units move when they shouldn't. Others refuse to move at all. A night withdrawal, meant to reposition, turns into a disaster. Men get lost. Formations fragment. Spartans wake to find allies gone. From Pausanias' position, it looks like betrayal. From the allies' position, it looks like abandonment. From the Persian hills, it looks like opportunity. Mardonius sees it immediately. Greek lines stretched. Gaps everywhere. Water sources unguarded. He laughs. This is exactly what he's been waiting for. No narrow pass. No naval tricks. Just open ground. Just numbers. And dawn is coming. Now I need you to understand something important. This moment, this hour before sunrise, is the lowest point of the entire war. Lower than Thermopylae. Because at Thermopylae, the Spartans chose to die. Here, they might be wiped out by mistake. Confusion. Fear. Human error. The most humiliating way to lose. Pausanias rides the line. Not shouting. Not raging. Watching. Calculating. And what he sees makes his blood run cold. Persian cavalry already probing. Archers warming up. The Greeks are scattered along the Asopus River, some without water, some without cover. If Mardonius attacks now, it's over. So Pausanias does something that shocks even his own men. He refuses to attack. He orders the Spartans to hold. And hold. And hold. While Persian arrows begin to fall. This is where Sparta's reputation is forged. Not in attack, but in restraint. Persian archers unleash volley after volley. Arrows slam into shields. Thunk. 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 Some find gaps. Men scream. A Spartan named Aristodemus, one of the survivors of Thermopylae, stands in the ranks. You remember him. The man shamed for living. Now arrows tear into the men beside him. He doesn't flinch. Doesn't move. Because this is his chance to erase his name in blood. And he waits. The Athenians are not so calm. They're being hit hard. Persian infantry presses them. The temptation to charge is overwhelming. But Pausanias knows something critical. If the Spartans move too early, the Persians will withdraw, reform, crush them with cavalry. So he waits. And prays. Here comes the moment history almost lost everything. Pausanias sacrifices to the gods. Again. And again. And again. The omens are bad. Every time. The priests shake their heads. No favor. No sign. Arrows keep falling. Men are dying. All around him, Spartans are shouting. Command us. Let us charge. But Pausanias doesn't move. Because if he moves without divine approval, and loses, Sparta loses its soul. This is where psychology matters. Persian soldiers begin to notice something deeply unsettling. The Spartans are not advancing. They're not retreating. They are absorbing. Silent. Enduring. Arrow after arrow. Death without response. And that terrifies them. Because men who do not react to pain cannot be intimidated. Now comes the miracle. Or coincidence. Or pure madness. Depending on who you ask. At last, The sacrifices turn favorable. The priests shout. The signs are good. And Pausanias does not hesitate. He raises his spear. And the Spartans advance. The ground shakes. Not metaphorically. Literally. 10,000 shields slam forward in unison. The sound is like a thunderclap made of bronze. Persian archers panic. They drop bows. Reach for spears they are not trained to use this way. Too late. The Spartan line hits. And it is not a battle. It is a collision. Bones crack. Spears punch through linen armor like cloth. Men are crushed under shields. The Persian front line folds instantly. They are brave. They fight hard. But they are not built for this. This is heavy infantry warfare. This is men bred from childhood to kill at arm's length. And now, the revenge for Thermopylae begins to breathe. Let me introduce you to Mardonius in this moment. He sees the line buckle. He mounts his white horse. Rides directly toward the Spartans. Throws his guard forward. He believes presence can turn the tide. He believes courage will inspire. He is wrong. A Spartan named Arimnestus hurls a stone. Not a spear. Not a blade. A stone. It hits Mardonius in the head. The Persian general collapses. Dead. Just like that. The brain of Persia's army. Gone. And something primal snaps. Persian morale disintegrates. Orders stop. Units hesitate. The Spartans press. The Athenians, seeing the shift, surge forward. What was a battle becomes a rout. And now, the slaughter truly begins. Here's your first false ending. Persian soldiers flee to their fortified camp. Walls. Trenches. Palisades. They believe they're safe. Greek forces pause. Men breathe. Some think it's over. Victory. Celebration. They are wrong. Because Pausanias is not finished. Thermopylae is not finished. And what happens next will stay in Greek hands forever. The Spartans regroup. They don't cheer. They don't chant. They advance. Straight toward the Persian camp. And here's where the myth breaks. Because Spartans are terrible at siege warfare. They can't breach the defenses. They take casualties. Frustration builds. Anger returns. Then, the Tegeans find a gap. They force entry. And once the wall breaks, nothing holds. Inside the Persian camp, there are no formations. No lines. Only panic. Men trampled. Tents collapsing. Animals screaming. Greeks surge in. And they do not discriminate. Soldiers. Servants. Cooks. Slaves. All are cut down. This is not war anymore. This is extermination. Let me reset your attention with this. Ancient sources say the killing went on so long that Greek soldiers' arms cramped. That men had to switch hands. That blood turned dust into mud. That screams continued until there were no voices left to scream. And when it ended, the Greeks stood surrounded by corpses they could not count. Second false ending. The battle is over. Persia is broken. Greece is saved. Right? No. Because now comes the part history doesn't like to talk about. What happens after victory? What happens when vengeance has no enemy left? And turns inward. Pausanias walks the camp. He sees Persian luxury. Gold. Silk. Perfume. Food beyond imagination. And something dangerous stirs. Resentment. Envy. Temptation. This is where his story begins to rot. But we're not there yet. Because revenge, Spartan revenge, is not done. While Plataea drowns in blood, another Greek force is moving. Across the sea. Toward Persian territory. Led by men who have heard what happened on land. And are about to answer it in kind. And what they do will shock even their allies. Because Thermopylae is about to be avenged twice. Once on land. And once In a way so brutal that even the Spartans will hesitate to celebrate. Hold on. Because next, we go east. To Mycale. To a beach soaked in bodies. To Persian soldiers begging Greek hoplites for mercy, and receiving none. And to the moment when Greece crosses a line, and can never step back again. You're not ready for what comes next. But neither were they. You think the story should end at Plataea. Most histories stop there. Victory. Freedom. The end. But war doesn't end when the enemy breaks. It ends when the survivors decide what kind of people they've become. And Greece hasn't decided yet. While Plataea is still burning, word crosses the Aegean. Persian power isn't just broken on land. It's exposed at sea. A Persian fleet, what remains of it, has pulled back to the coast of Asia Minor. They beach their ships near a place called Mycale. A mountain. A shoreline. A natural trap. And leading the Greek fleet toward them is a man you need to know. His name is Leotychides. A Spartan king. But not a Leonidas. Not a martyr. Something colder. As the Greek fleet approaches, rumors ripple through the ships. Some say Plataea is already won. Some say it's already lost. No one knows. Then something eerie happens. A whisper moves deck to deck. Not shouted. Not announced. A rumor. Persia has fallen in Greece. True or not, it doesn't matter. Because belief is stronger than truth. Greek rowers pull harder. Persian sailors grow quiet. Morale. That invisible weapon. Tilts. The Persians do not sail out. They beach their ships. Chain them together. Build a fortified camp. They believe numbers will save them again. They believe Greeks won't dare attack on land. They are wrong. Leotychides gives a speech. Short. Sharp. He tells the men this. Today, you fight not for cities. Not for kings. But for every Greek who died without burial. That hits. Because burial matters. Because Thermopylae's dead were mutilated. Left. Desecrated. And now, every Greek here feels like an executioner waiting his turn. The Greeks land. They advance uphill. Persians rain arrows. Men fall. But Plataea has changed something. The Greeks do not hesitate anymore. They charge. What follows at Mycale is chaos. No neat formations. No heroic duels. This is men hacking through tents. Through makeshift walls. Through bodies that refuse to stop moving. Athenian hoplites clash with Persian infantry. Spartans push straight through the center. And here is where revenge loses control. Persian soldiers drop weapons. Raise hands. Beg. In Greek. They've learned the words. Mercy. Slave. Spare. And the Greeks do something chilling. They ignore them. Because mercy was never shown at Thermopylae. Because begging did not save Leonidas. Because restraint feels like betrayal of the dead. So the killing continues. A Persian officer named Hermotimus tries to surrender. He offers gold. Information. Anything. An Athenian named Xanthippus hears him. Looks at him. And kills him anyway. Later writers try to soften this. To justify it. But the truth is simple. They didn't want prisoners. They wanted closure. And closure required blood. The Persian camp collapses. Ships burn. Smoke chokes the beach. Bodies wash into the surf. Red water slaps against Greek shields. And when it ends, Persia's naval power in the Aegean is finished. Gone. Erased. Third false ending. This should be it. 2 massive victories. Persia shattered. Greece saved. Cue the statues. The poems. The glory. Except, now the Greeks look at each other. And realize something terrifying. They're good at this. Too good. Because after Mycale, the war doesn't stop. It mutates. What began as defense becomes pursuit. Liberation becomes punishment. Greek forces move island to island, city to city, hunting Persian collaborators. And here's where lines blur. Let me tell you about Samos, a Greek island that supported Persia. When Greek forces arrive, the Samian leaders beg forgiveness. They claim coercion, fear, survival. The Athenians argue to spare them. Sparta does not. The Samian elite are executed, not exiled, not fined, killed. And the message spreads fast. There will be no neutral ground. Now we return to Pausanias. Victorious, celebrated, feared, and quietly changing. He walks among Persian spoils, wears their clothes, sleeps on soft bedding, eats rich food. He begins adopting Persian customs, not publicly, but noticeably, enough that Spartans whisper, enough that Athenians watch closely, because the man who orchestrated revenge is starting to resemble the enemy. Here's the psychological cost of vengeance. Once you justify cruelty, you need to keep justifying it. Otherwise, you have to face what you've become. Pausanias doesn't want to face that. So he doubles down. He becomes harsher, colder, more authoritarian. He punishes dissent brutally. He isolates himself. And rumors begin. Rumors that Pausanias is negotiating with Persia. That he wants to rule Greece as a tyrant. That he envies Xerxes' power. At first, no one believes it. Then letters are intercepted. Messengers vanish. And the whispers become impossible to ignore. Let me reset your attention one last time here. Because what happens next is not a battle. It's an execution. And it's one of the most haunting moments in Spartan history. Sparta summons Pausanias home. Not to honor him. To investigate him. He denies everything. Proud. Defiant. But evidence mounts. A slave, his own, testifies. Letters sealed with Persian marks. Plans. Ambition. And suddenly, the avenger of Thermopylae stands accused of treason. Pausanias flees. He runs to a temple, clings to the altar, seeking asylum. And Sparta does something unthinkable. They wall him in, brick by brick. They do not spill blood in a sacred place. Instead, they starve him. Slowly, silently. His own mother lays the first stone. Think about that. The woman who raised him, choosing the state over her son. Because Sparta cannot afford mercy anymore. Not even for heroes. Pausanias dies. Not screaming. Not fighting. Weak. Forgotten. A man consumed by the very vengeance he unleashed. And now, finally, we reach the end. The aftermath. The part history buries under marble and myth. What Greece gained. What it lost. And why the story of Thermopylae's revenge is not a triumph, but a warning. Because in avenging their dead, the Greeks learned how easily justice becomes atrocity. And once learned, that knowledge never goes away. Stay with me, because in the final moments, we'll strip away the legend. We'll talk about what ancient writers refused to say out loud. And why, if you were there, if you held a spear, you might not be proud of what you survived. You're about to know the real story. The one most people will never hear.